Hi, I'm Rachel Woody with Rachael Cristine Consulting, and today we're going to talk about how to find the best funding opportunity. Now, if you're watching this video, then that presumes that you've already done the foundational work necessary to determine what your problem and needs are and what your solution is, and then breaking down that solution into a grant project idea. So, you've got the grant project idea. Where do you go for funding? Now, your museum or archives might already have a list of funding agencies that you go to that are an appropriate match. Now, even if you've done that, you still need to make sure that that funding opportunity is a good match for your project. So, no matter where you are in terms of knowing what funding agencies are out there, this is a great exercise to do every time you've got a new project idea. Now, the how to finding the best funding opportunities, there is a where and a what. That's a where to look and what to look for. For where to look, there's a couple different methods, and I recommend trying all of them. The first one is there are plenty of free and paid subscription databases out there that help to chronicle funding opportunities with various different search capabilities. While I definitely know that there is benefit to having a database, sometimes doing a good old-fashioned internet search is just as well, and it actually connects you directly to the funding agency websites, which will always be the most up-to-date and also won't be filtered out based on a pay-to-play scheme. Now, the next thing I would propose is take a look at either who's funded you previously or who has funded your peers. If there's a similar museum or archive or a similar project out there that you know of that received funding, check out who funded it, because chances are they would be interested in funding you too. And the third where to look is anytime you go to conferences or check out webinars, there are opportunities there where funding agencies who are there to fund museums and archives will be there in vendor booths or workshop webinar situations. So pay attention to those, attend them if you're able, to get to know these different granting agencies better, both in terms of what types of things they fund, but also how they like to interact with you. Every funding agency is different. All right, now we're at the what to look for, and I've got 7 things to look for here when you're vetting a funding agency or fund opportunity. The first one to look for is the funding agency still active and regularly distributing funds. Funding is precarious, even for these funding agencies, whether municipal or nonprofit. So make sure you're up to date by checking their website to see if they're funding this year. Tip number 2 is look for what agencies or organizations they like to support. Perhaps they are nonprofits and very broad in the organizations they support, or they could be much more narrow in terms of just supporting, for example, African American history and culture. Make sure you're paying attention to those, because if your organization doesn't fit, there is no point in you applying. Which leads me into number 3. It's similar. Just because they might support your organization doesn't mean they would support the project idea you have. A lot of funding agencies are very specific about what projects they like to fund. Some are very digital, some are not digital at all in terms of projects, so pay attention to that too. Number 4 is to pay attention to the eligibility criteria. This is beyond what type of organization you are and beyond what type of project you're proposing. This is any other thing that could be considered eligible criteria that you need to make sure you meet. For example, some granting agencies require you to be open to the public a certain number of days a year. If that's not your organization, you do not meet that criteria, don't apply. Number 5 is one that not a whole lot of people realize, but many granting agencies post their previous awardees on their website. Now, if they are a municipal granting agency, that's pretty much required. You should be able to find it. And even a lot of the nonprofit or private foundations will also post previous awardee history. This is a great indicator to see if your peers have been funded, if a project idea you're proposing, if something similar has been funded, and gives you a great indication if eligibility didn't clue you in to what that agency really enjoys funding or not. Number 6, pay attention to the award amount. Many of the granting agencies will provide a minimum, maximum, or average award amount. Now, if your grant project has a higher price tag than what they're offering, you will need to be very clear in how you're going to make up that cash difference, scale down, or maybe you shouldn't be applying for that opportunity at all. If your project amount is actually less than, if it's close, I would say don't worry about it. But if it's significantly less than their average award, either see how you can beef your project up, partner with other people, or maybe go somewhere else to look. Because if your award amount isn't the usual type of project or award amount they're used to funding, it may not be a great fit. A good way to check this is calling and contacting the funding agency to speak with them directly about this. All right, and tip number 7 is important to remember, especially for looking at granting agency opportunities and seeing that there's less than a month to apply. Always check the deadline. You could have months and months ahead of you, or it could be due in a week. Oftentimes when museums and archives catch wind of a great opportunity, it's often way too late to construct a compelling and successful grant project idea. So be proactive here. Track the grants that you're interested in. If you've got 3 months for the application window, that's often the sweet spot in order for you to construct a great project, get all the documentation and everything you need, and to apply appropriately and without stress. If you have less than 3 months, even less than 1 month, definitely reevaluate as to whether this is a good idea and try and plan better next time. If you've got more than 3 months, great. Put it in the calendar. You can start working towards it now, but really 3 months is what you want to shoot for. All right, well, that was the video. Thank you for watching. Check out my website for tips and tricks and services I offer. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, and don't forget to get your free electronic copy of my book, A Survivor's Guide to Museum Grant Writing, courtesy of Lucida Press, or go to Amazon.com for your paperback edition. Thanks for listening.